Kenya Film Classification Board. It is therefore suitable for general family viewing.
Hello viewer, good morning and welcome to Chungu cha Jamii. My name is Betty Akuku. I'm your host this morning. Today we are going to be talking about resisting peer pressure. As you well hear the words, peer pressure seem to be such a negative and a big thing. But I would like to let you know that resisting peer pressure is not an easy thing as it may sound. Truly, it's not easy to resist peer pressure because people fear they will lose friends, they will be called the uncool guys, and life would not be so smooth and normal for them. Today I have a guest in studio and I would like her to introduce herself as she takes us through this discussion. Also be part of us. Our SMS line is 21144. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Tegest.
Yeah.
I have been working with kids and youth with different organizations, non-governmental organizations, religious organizations, and I am a psychosocial professional professionally.
Wow. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you again.
Thank you.
I know that by now some of my guests already identify with you so well. So we are talking about resisting peer pressure. Please first tell us, what is peer pressure?
Peer pressure, as it sounds, it's doing things which are not what you want to do.
Okay.
You didn't plan to do it, you don't want to do it, but because some of your friends or your colleagues will put pressure on you to do something that you are not ready to do.
Okay.
It can be positive. We usually talk about the negative, but it can be positive as well as negative.
Okay.
So we can see it that way.
Okay, so doing something that you don't want to do, but you see your friends or your colleagues do.
Yes.
Who can be a victim of peer pressure?
Usually the youth.
Usually
the youth will be a victim of this peer pressure because of their nature. A number of studies that have been conducted shows that the youth are and can be peer pressure because of their nature. Like naturally, at that stage, at their age, it is very difficult for them to resist the peer pressure.
How about adults?
Adults also are can be victim of peer pressure, but because of their through life they learn, and through the process they understand some of the things. So it's a bit easier for an adult.
Okay.
But for the youth, they are in process of being accepted into their friends, into their environment, into their peers. So those kind of being wanted,
they're also
being
fighting
appreciated
with identity crisis.
Yes, that's right. So all those kind of factors makes them more vulnerable than the adults.
Okay.
But the adults as well can be under peer pressure.
Okay.
Yes.
I know that even children can be victims of peer pressure.
True.
But I would like us to concentrate more on the youth, or rather the teens and the young adults. Resisting peer pressure. You said it can be positive also, but the negative one is the one that is usually more outspoken because of its effects, So when you try to resist peer pressure, I know in the youth groups people consider you to be the uncool guy because you don't do what everybody else is doing. When people are calling each other to go do drugs, to go do night parties, and you were resisting or not going, you're considered as the analog person, the one who is not so exposed, or the one who doesn't know a lot of things. How do you think parents, especially, need to train their children so that they can have the muscle to be able to resist peer pressure?
Actually, the work of a parent doesn't start when they are youth.
Okay.
They have to start working on their children from a young age, as a child. Say, for example, one of the key area that is very important for a parent to work on is to teach their kids to say no.
Okay.
Train them, how they should say no to something that they don't want.
From when they're young.
Yeah, from when they're young. And follow that and train them in that way. So, and also, for example, like building their self-esteem is also another area that will benefit the child when he's youth to
but
say no.
When you are training your child to say no all the time, how does this help them to build their self-esteem? Because when they want to do something or go somewhere and they have a proposal, you're always saying no, no. So they feel like, I am not loved, I am not appreciated, mommy doesn't accept everything that I do. How does saying no, does it really build up the self-esteem of a child?
Yes. You don't say yes to everything. Definitely.
Neither do you say no to everything.
Yeah, but like to some of their, to understand some of their questions and to understand some of their no's. Say, for example, if a child is asking you to, or is ordered to do something, and he reasons out and, tries to explain things to you, to keep that. It's not everything that we accept and, say, okay.
How do you look at a child and identify that she or he is under peer pressure and this is not the real them? I mean, like some of the things that they do, it might not appear to a parent.
Okay. Usually, like, because they know what the parent wants and they know what their friends want. So they will mostly they may hide some of the things.
Yeah.
And this goes back, maybe if you remember in our last discussion, we raised about the three ways that we raise our kids, authoritative, authoritarian, and permissive parenting. So the parent who teaches the child to reason out and to say no to some things by looking at the reason is an effective parent.
Yes. By looking at the reason why they are being told a no.
No. Yes. Yeah. So that will give a muscle to the child, even when he's an adult, to say no, looking at the reason. But if we keep on saying no to everything and not explaining, and the child doesn't know why. Say, for example, a child wants to go out and play. We say like, no, you don't go out. And he says like, why? And you give a reason, say, don't argue with me, don't ask me. So you keep on just telling the parent, just do whatever I say.
For example, a small child wants to go out and play, and the weather is not so friendly.
Yes.
And you are saying no. You're supposed to say maybe first get warm.
Yes.
And then go out to play.
True. Yeah.
But now that is a very simple scenario.
Yes.
Where a son or a daughter who is a young adult wants to go out with his friends for a night out party, and you say no, and they ask why, and you probably say it's unsafe. They will tell you their friends are there. What do you mean it's unsafe? We will ask for transport back home. We will find a way to be safe. What are you supposed to say in this case? What reason are you supposed to give?
Actually, in that age, you have to really discuss openly about everything. You have to be able to discuss. If you keep saying no without explaining, without understanding, then that's a very dangerous thing to do. Because the youth, they have their own way of doing things by hiding it from you. So you explain when it is dangerous, what do you mean by dangerous?
Yes.
When you are saying like, who do you trust? Why do you trust? How can you trust? like you have to be able to explain to them.
You know, them
that-
being adults,
Yeah.
they have a way, like you say, they hide a lot of things.
Yes.
So they will tell you, my friends always go, and they usually come back safe. So it is not unsafe.
Yeah, you know, like the work, as I told you, the work starts from a little bit earlier. And
So
then
when you start it earlier, by
Earlier.
this time, it is a system in their heart.
it's a system in their heart, and they know why do you tell them no.
Okay. Is it every time, Tigist, that your child or the youth are doing something that they didn't learn from home? All this time they do this, is it as a result of peer pressure?
Yes, like you know, like the most of the youth that are exposed to peer pressure, to negative peer pressures, are those who doesn't you know, doesn't know how to say no, doesn't have self-esteem, you know, are not strong, and then they are not taught to choose the friend also. You know, you have to choose a friend.
Yeah.
So the parent has to be very close to the child from the beginning. Discuss everything. You know, who are your friends? What is your friend? And like being very open. Even if your child comes and tells you like so and so are drinking or so and so are taking drugs, you don't be surprised, or you don't you know, show your
Physical expression.
physical
like, "What?"
expression because like that will close the child and say like, oh, okay, good. So what do you think about it? You know, you keep on
To
trying
find out
to
more.
find out more, be open to whatever is going to be discussed. And from early child, I mean, from as early as the child in his early age, in his or her early ages, you have to be able to discuss about things. You have to be able to discuss, for example, drinking, taking drugs is one of the area where parents are very worried, are worried about, you know, like, what if my child goes into it? And what if I don't know? And what if he ends up in this situation? So that is the most scary thing for a parent. But to address that fear and to address that problem
Yes.
of the child going into that kind of you know, alcohol, drug abuse life, they have to be able to be a friend, being close, knowing all the friends that are around, and you get the feel of a friend, you know, like what he likes, what he doesn't like, what he does, you know, because
When your children come and tell you,
Yeah.
these are my friends and this is what they do, you
Yeah.
know, how do you tell them, I don't want you to relate with so-and-so in a way that is not offensive, in a way that they will consider of it and not just take it as offensive?
Yes, like you have to be open, as we said. You have to be open and discuss about the consequence of taking a drug or alcohol, you know, all the abuses, all the substance abuses. You have to tell them and discuss what will happen if they take those kind of things. You know, if they go and, you know, sleep with a girl or a boy before, you know,
Marriage.
you know, you openly discuss with them. And it's not, when we say discuss, it's not preaching the child. It's not telling them this is bad, this is, you know, like, it's not telling them.
Yeah.
It's just even listening to their ideas. You know, you explain things and also listen to their ideas. Be open. See, for example, for me, I have worked with youth a lot in this area. I have been facilitating trainings. The youth tells you a lot when you try to listen to them.
Okay.
And one thing that I found out is the parents, they don't talk, they don't discuss with their kids, with
It's
the children.
because people are so busy, Tigist. A lot of parents are absent.
Yes.
The economy today demands that you step out there, and that denies you the most important moment of spending with your children.
Which is very dangerous.
And so what should happen?
Which is
What should we do?
understand, like, yeah, I mean, the situation of a parent is these days is not easy.
And you cannot delegate parenting, you know.
You can't.
So you try to get it to the teachers, you try
Yes.
to get it to the church, but still they're not the
You will-
parents, you are the parents.
Yeah,
and so you miss out on a lot of things.
you miss out in a lot of things.
You know, Tigist, also I'm thinking about sometimes the fears that a parent has that now leads you to close in or lock up your children so that they don't go out to associate with other children because you have trained them and you're not sure whether your neighbors or the people around you have trained their children in the same way. So because of this fear, you don't expose your children. What do you think about that?
Oh, that's not right.
It's not right.
That's not right, because like the child has to socialize and
Yes.
wants to socialize with his friends, with his peers,
Yeah.
or her peer. And looking out will make things even more worse and bad.
Why?
It won't help.
Why? You're teaching them the right way. They're in a safe environment in your house. You have taught them the right way to live. You
Yeah.
have taught them values, you know.
Yeah.
What is wrong with that?
But going out and practicing and exercising the value that they have is also important. Because
You know, at their age, when they're so young,
Yeah.
everything is so exciting, they want to try. There's a lot of peer influence, and mostly negative.
Yeah.
You know?
Like,
And today we're talking about resisting.
that's true.
Yes, yes.
Many parents are thinking like that, you know, like they lock their kids in the house and they think that it's safe, but which is not. Because like the more you try to look and, you know, just keep them away, they get curious and say like, why? I have to try. You know, you push them into the other extreme. But instead, you have to empower the child. You have to empower them and say like, this is the danger. You choose. And you train a child to choose. You train the child to choose a friend. Like the Bible says, like, don't relate with the foolish, because like your values, your thinking will be corrupted. So you have to teach them that, you know, don't associate with this. And how do you get detached with such kind of a friend? You know, this is a lifetime lesson. This is a lifetime process. Even as an adult, you have to know how to say no.
So
and
that
how
means
to keep away.
First, they have to get into the problem.
Get into the relationship and choose and
they first have to get exposed and meet with the bad company before they are able to exercise what they have learned.
They don't have to go into the bad relationship, but they have to be,
because how do you know this person is not the right person for me to relate with? How do you know this person is not a good friend? Until you have worked with them for some time, then you discover one day, oh, they do drugs. Oh, this is what they do.
Yeah, like say for example, they are in school. I mean, you can't keep them away from their peers. Everywhere. Like, you know, they will find them in schools. They will find them in the community. They will find them everywhere. So you're locking the kids in a safe environment will not work, basically.
It will not work.
It will not work. But you have to tell them when to say no. Like if the child is, you know, if a peer, if their friend's behavior is such a way that they will push them into something, they have to be able to say, resist and say no. And even before going into that, when they see that kind of a friend, they have to be able to depart and detach themselves. And they have to be able to choose the good and friends and associate. You know, this is a social skill that they need for life, not only as a youth, but also as an adult. You know, you have to be able to choose your friends. And we have to teach them how to choose a friend. You know, life for a child is not only, you know, school, studies only. You know, you have to be able to direct your child and make them grow emotionally, socially. intellectually, you know, spiritually.
You know, as we did in our introduction,
Yeah.
I mentioned that sometimes you are termed as the uncool guy
Yeah.
when you don't associate yourself with things that your peers do, you know.
Yeah.
And the reason you're doing that is actually not because you don't want to, but your mom said, don't do this, you know, don't get into this company. So a lot of times you hear the echo of your mom's voice, you know. You remember the values you carried from home, and as you live your life meeting with this kind of people, you feel like, no, this is not what I was told, you know. Before it settles in you and becomes so strong that you're able to make that decision independently, you're always in fear. And so you have these fears of, what will they think about me, you know. This kind of youth who is struggling with at this stage of what will people think about me, you feel like you do not fit well in the shoes of your friends. You also feel like you are isolated because you don't do what everybody else does. What is your advice for such kind of youth?
This kind of youth has to find their peers, the
Their
peers
likes.
that who values what they value and associate with them. And if a parent also gets involved in such kind of, you know, creating the situations or anything that they are able to do to involve their child into that kind of peer who values the same kind of value, then that will keep the child, you know, even though I'm rejected here, I have still my peers.
But you don't think this the
supporting.
majority are
Yeah.
the ones that are doing the things you don't want them to do, you know? The majority
Yeah.
are the ones that are doing the negative thing.
Yeah.
The majority are the ones involved in drugs. The majority are the ones that are involved in night parties that you don't like your children to attend, you know? And so very few, you know, are the ones that are fighting against that kind of advice, you know. So they feel lonely and isolated, and eventually, because the other people are more, they are pulled and dragged into it.
Yeah, like for example, there are sports clubs that they can join. You know, the youth want to show that they are, you know, that's how even you build their self-esteem. They want to show that they are able and skilled and better in some of the areas.
Yes.
You know, they want to show off that they are good, they are, you know, they want to be appreciated. That's why they want to be accepted. So when they have those kind of skills, it's one area also to build their self-esteem and also to make them concentrate and focus on doing those kind of activities that will keep them away from such a group.
Yes.
So those group that are in sports club or those group that are in religious organizations, it can be a church or it can be, you know, other religious organizations
Yes.
that work with the youth to keep them safe. You have to facilitate to get them involved in
When
that.
the youth begins facilitations of such kinds of activities, because it's only when they are young adults, they have just grown into teenagehood, that they discover, oh, the world has also this and that other side that is very interesting, that I would want to try out, that I would want to be part of, but my mom here says no, my dad here says no. And even though they haven't said no, somehow I feel it is not the right thing to do, and I do not want to get into it, you know, because it's kind of dangerous. You know, so at what stage do you introduce your children to these various activities, knowing that ahead there is peer pressure and it's going to be such a great pull?
Yeah, I think like it would be good to get them involved from the childhood.
Okay.
As young adults, as young children, they can get involved in such kind of activities because like it grows and it develops with them. You know, we as a child, if he enjoys or if she enjoys that activity, then they get more.
But even in the
closer.
activity, Tigis, you will
Yeah.
still find people with negative peer influence.
True.
Yes.
But at least
Because where do you
Yeah.
meet? You don't just meet
Yeah.
the people who influence you negatively in school.
Yeah.
You also meet them when you do your side activities, you
Yes.
meet them in your neighborhood. They're basically everywhere.
Yes,
Yeah.
true. You can't even find them there, but at least they'll be busy. Instead of
Okay.
sitting down
Okay.
and doing the drugs or drinking, they have the sport activity, they have the church activity. Mostly, I see the religious organization, the church, taking responsibility for such kind of activities. They have to target and they have to be open and discuss with the youth and guide them in the Word of God. The Word of God is a shield for such a chaos environment.
Yeah.
It covers the child. It covers the challenge that the child is passing through, and it will give them a strength to say no. So as I told you, I was discussing with different youth group
Yes.
in school, in churches, and I find that the more you discuss with the youth in such kind of topics, the youth will open up and tell you the challenge and ask you for advice. Now, what do I do?
Problem is when you are not equipped to be able to help them with advice.
Yes, I see like youth pastors or youth leaders has to be equipped, and mostly they are.
Okay.
The only thing that you need for a youth is to listen. Even for a child, is to listen. As I told you, from my experience, the parents are not there to listen. So
They're not there to listen.
they're not there to listen. So the youth, in my case, they come to me.
I think so because look at this scenario where you're raising up a daughter or even a son, and they've gotten to that age where there's so much negative influence around them, and you're teaching them what we're talking about today, resisting peer pressure. And they come home and they say, Mom, people are almost half naked, dressed and with his friends, and it is not the kind of life that he wants to. But just because everybody else does this, he feels so abnormal. He feels men are sagging, their trousers, and they're almost falling down. People have shaped their hair in a certain way. It's not that this is the style that he wants, but it feels like this is the way he identifies with his people, And so she feels like if it is a man, the things that he wants to do, like the fellow boys are doing, he can do, So people have tagged him the woman, out of place, to not be the one doing this, But when they come to you, you are buying for the girl, the adults, you are buying the long skirts, no trousers. You are buying the ones that cover everywhere. People now call him the woman because he cannot stand out strongly enough as a man and do what other things do. He doesn't have the boldness to do what they do because he doesn't have also the muscle to overcome, And so he is fighting. How does he resist?
Yeah.
Especially for the one who was never taught how to say no. They definitely fall into it.
They definitely fall into it. But if it is for the child, for the youth, my advice would be, to stay out of this kind of pressure and, try to stay away. Because, like, he might not have the muscle, to say no. Because, like, you don't stand and try to negotiate if you are not strong enough. But if you have that strong character of saying no, you just get away. I can, when I see this, it's the story of Joseph, which comes to my mind. When Potiphar's wife wanted him to go to bed with him, he didn't stand and try to negotiate and try to tell her, this is not good for me, it's a sin, it's not right.
Because inside of Joseph, there was a fear of God.
Yes.
But now for this young girl, what fear is in her heart? For this young guy, is there any fear? Except for the parent who is absent.
Yes.
Except for the parent who is not here. Girls and boys even carry clothes to change and wear when they're outside there and dress appropriately when they come back home. They live two sides of life.
Sides of life.
You get. So they carry In the school bag, they carry clothes to wear so that they feel like they fit. You know, this thing of trying to fit is so disturbing, and a lot of people cannot bear it. So what you do is you definitely fit, because you are fearing, what are your friends going to say about you? How are you going to be the only one, the only odd one out? It's not that you like it, but there's so much pressure. And back at home, no one taught you how to say no. How do you resist?
Yeah,
and overcome?
Yeah, I hear from what you are discussing, I hear that a child at home who has not been taught anything, how does he or she resist peer pressure?
Yes.
For that kind of a child, it's a challenge. That child has to know that if they continue to do that, their life is going to be in danger. Number one, it's dangerous. Number two, they have to try to find someone, even if it is not their parent. They have to find a youth leader, you know, a church leader, or a leader, a youth person who can talk to them, who can talk about their challenges and share and advise them what to do. You know, like they have to be able to identify that person and discuss their challenges.
You know, they can only do that when they discover that they're in the wrong place.
Yes.
That where they're in, that space is not good enough.
Yeah.
You know, but they're in it because they think it is the best space to be, and everybody else is denying them to be here. Are they really able to discover by themselves that, you know what, this space is not safe? This is not a safe space for me right now. Because they're getting into it, running away from their parents to get into this. This is what they're being denied. And they're getting into it to have fun and enjoy, which is not the case.
Yes.
You know? Yeah.
For such a child, you know, like if they think somehow there is this debate in themselves, knowing that this is a bad thing, you know, that's why they hide. That's why they, you know, try to hide whatever. So those children, they know it's not right.
Yes, for the ones who hide, they know it's not right.
Yes.
So it means they have heard from home. They have learned how to say no.
Yeah.
Yes, from somewhere.
Yes.
So why do they still fall into it if they have heard?
Because of the pressure. Because of the things that you mentioned.
So the learning, the being taught and coached to say no was not helpful enough?
It was not. We can see that it was not.
Yes.
Because like from what we are discussing, those kids hide and go there. So the message from me to parents is like, number one, be close, try to find time, because this is very crucial. More than the you know, the busy things that you're doing. This is the life of a child. You know, if it goes in the right way, it's good. If it doesn't, then it is a disaster for the child as well as for the parent.
I hear you, Tigis.
So
I hear you.
The parent has to find the time, and not only finding the time. Usually parents lecture, you know, don't do this, don't do that, and they don't listen from the child. I was telling you my experience. I relate with the parent as well as with the youth. So the parents of the youth doesn't have any idea the challenge that the youth are passing through.
I hear you. My concern is when you also start following too much on your teenagers or on your youth, instead of them thinking and feeling like you want to befriend them, there's a feeling of mom is really nagging. You know, she just wants to find out my secrets. There's that discomfort that they also express, that you are too much and you're not allowing them some space to explore and practice what they have learned and do something on their own.
It's been very dangerous to follow a youth.
What do you do?
It's a very dangerous thing.
What do? Do you just assume? And give your youth 10,000 shillings on a weekend and
You
don't
don't-
ask how did you spend?
No, it's not following. It is being a friend.
That's very interesting.
It
Let's
is
take a
being a
short
friend.
break. We're coming back just now.
Yeah.
Viewer, thank you for watching this episode. Our SMS line is 21144. We are talking about resisting peer pressure. I am here with Tigis. She's taking us through this. I hope you are enjoying.
How many of you use your real names on Facebook? Wengine ni Sweetie Pretty.
You must succeed in being an eagle and not a chicken.
I'm seeing myself owning the biggest media house in Africa. Yes, I could employ you, in fact. Yes.
All right, now it is going to another direction. But that's a question.
When you are born and when you grow up, now you do the work. You become a person who likes the country. You understand, right? I mean, not getting a job at Kenya Power, right?
And you know what? Who you are online is a
눈썹으로 인사를 대답을 해.
They respond with their eyebrows.
offline. And who you are offline is who you are online.
제가 여러 군데 가서 강연을 많이 해보는데
So I've been to many places to give lectures.
우나일레 와서 와 이러면
Whenever I say "Unaelewa sasa,"
People have dominance over themselves. Why? Daddy, no money. Give me money. I'll buy for you. Hey, Daddy, I said I don't have money. Hey, I know, Daddy.
Can the Ethiopian change his skin? Or the leopard its spots?
예수님이 우리의 모든 죄값을 다 지불하시기 때문에 예수님 다 이루었다라고 말씀하셨잖아요.
So Jesus paid for all the wages of our sin. That's why. He could say it is finished.
Yesu alipa mshahara wa deni zetu lote, ndiposa akasema kwamba imekwisha.
하나님은 슈퍼컴퓨터와 같은 분이에요.
Everyone, God is like the supercomputer.
Upendo wa Mungu ni kama hii supercomputer.
I know.
Everywhere, GBS.
Viewer, welcome back. I hope you are enjoying this episode truly. Tigist, when it comes to negative peer pressure, there's so much other than just dressing and drugs to take her out. What would you say as a parent? Are you supposed to say granted?
Before we go there, I would like to ask how many
and intimacy in the youth, you know, are they able to freely talk with their parents about this? If your son told you, I have a crush on this girl and I want to sleep with her, I want to
discuss about sexual life with their kids. I'm still going to tell you from my experience. I've been giving parenting training, how to talk about sex to parents,
to their children.
And most of the parents, you know, at
They
the
don't do
beginning I
that.
say, like, how many of you speak about sexual life to your kids? And they say, like, oh no, how can you say that? I will not. And 95% of the parents doesn't want to, and they don't want. They don't know how they start. They don't know how to talk, and they don't know when to talk.
Because they never spoke the same with their parents. No one taught them.
True.
Yes.
True. But this is not the time to keep quiet.
Okay.
To keep silent. Because, as I told you, again, I keep on bringing my experience because it is something that will...
It's your life.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I go to the same kids, to the same youth that the parent says like, we don't talk, says like, how many of you want your parents to talk to you about sex? All of them raise their hands.
Oh, really?
All of them. And they say like, where do you get the information about sex? They say like, we see it in the movies, we hear it from friends, there's a lot of information out there. And they're not getting it from you, they're getting it from the media, from different places.
Yes.
And what they get from the media and from friends is not the correct information.
And that's what they do, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, that's what they do. When the parent should be ready,
and should be the first they hear it from.
To communicate. They tell me, you talk to them, you don't. But I will not be there always to talk to them about that.
Yes.
The parent has to take responsibility.
So when you ask them, like, if now that you deal a lot with the youth, if a young guy came and told you, I have a crush on this girl and I want to sleep with her, you know, like if you ask, what do you ask them? If they have told their parents or if they need to ask for permission?
We discuss the consequence, you know?
You discuss the consequence.
We discuss openly. And when you discuss, you should discuss openly.
Okay.
You shouldn't be shy, or you shouldn't say like, should I talk to them or should I not talk to them? If you don't talk to them, then other person, other individual or other sources will really educate your child in a negative way.
In a negative way. But you know, when you mention that you need to talk to your mom about this, and what do they say? Never. You know? Never.
Like
yes, the mom will kill me or something.
Yes.
Yes.
Why? That's the attitude the mom shows. You know, the child comes, the child tests you.
What makes the children develop the mistrust? Because talking about resisting peer pressure, it actually means that there are things they have learned from home, and when they go out there, it is totally different, and it is the negative side. So they should be able to come home and tell you, Mom, I learned this, I saw this, is it right, So why don't they come and share with you? What is the reason they have lost trust in the moms and the dads?
Communication. The way the parent communicates is not the right way. No, the parent will get shocked or angry or just doesn't know how to deal with that. They say like, keep quiet, don't mention, those kind of things. Rather, like, oh my God, if a person comes and tells you like, I have killed a person, you don't get shocked as a counselor. The same way the parent has to be able to listen to any. I'm a counselor, as I mentioned to you. As a counselor, if a man comes and tells you anything, just accept everything. Accept the person as he is. Accept, anything that he tells you. Anything from the beginning. We are talking about things that needs to be worked, not at the end.
Okay.
And it's not an emergency.
Before we went on the break, I had asked you about, for example, if your daughter asked you for 30,000 to spend on a weekend out with their friends because you have taught them, you want them to step out and exercise what you have taught them. So they asked you for 30,000 and you say no, but you negotiate and get to a level of agreement where you have agreed, okay, I will give you 5,000, and you have agreed. And they spend out the weekend and come back. And we're talking about friendship and following, right? So they have come. And you're supposed to ask, like, who were you with in the 2 days or 3 days? How did you get home? Were you dropped by, a boyfriend? Or you dropped by an Uber? Aren't you supposed to ask how it was? Does it look like you're too inquisitive, mom? You're asking too much?
Again, communication. The way you communicate can make the child feel he is being followed and, like he's not trusted or she's not trusted.
How do you distinguish? Where do you draw the line between friendship and following?
A friendship is like, tell me about it. What do you do? Like, and she or he should be excited to come and tell you. From the childhood, children talks a lot from the childhood. So you listen to them. You listen. by appreciating. Listening doesn't only mean like I'm listening and looking elsewhere, but you focus totally. Listening is a job, by the way, a job for a parent.
I think parenting is the most difficult thing because you hear all the bad things and you're supposed to listen and agree and say, okay.
Listen and say, okay. That gives you a chance to see where to correct.
Parents need to go back to school.
I agree.
You agree?
I agree. I agree.
Everyone is learning how to make so much money. No one is learning how to, okay, when you really want to, when you're filled with rage and you really want to beat and spank and do something, but you're supposed to be content and say, okay, I hear you. Well, I think it's really difficult.
But let me just say something on that.
Before you give your parting shot.
You just don't, yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Take it still, give you a parting shot. Thank you so much for coming to the show today. Please speak to our viewer and tell them your last words about today's topic.
Yeah. I would like to tell every parent, as we have been discussing, it is a work, it's a job. But we have to know how to do it. Sometimes if you don't know how to do it, then we damage more than we benefit our youth and our kids. So try to listen to your kids without judging, by just being there and accepting them. That's my message for parents.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. I wish you said something to the youth as well.
Yeah.
But the parents will guide their children. Thank you, viewer, for watching this episode. It has really been educative, and I hope you have taken just one thing away from this show. Do practice. Don't lock. Give them the muscle and teach them